Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Garrett Brannon, and I am a proud conservative Orthodox Christian. But I've not always been that way. In the 2016 election, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I supported Bernie Sanders because I knew how corrupt Hillary Clinton was. Bernie Sanders hit her very hard uh, because of her meetings with billionaire donors, her meetings with Wall Street's executives and giant corporations, where she was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Bernie was right. He said, "Hey, man, that must have been a powerful speech. You know, I would love to hear a speech worth $100,000 or more." And I remember how hard he hit her. And then when he supported her, it felt like a betrayal. It felt like a betrayal of the American people. It was what you would see in wrestling as turning heel, right? He joined the bad guys supporting her. He knew she was bad. He knew she was corrupt. He spoke against her corruption and then decided to support her anyways. Now, I had watched how Hillary Clinton had made back deals with CNN. She made deals with the DNC. Essentially, what was amazing was she actually made it so that the current chairman of the Democratic National Committee, she chose as her vice president. And the head of her campaign, she turned into the head of the DNC. So everybody got a promotion if they supported Hillary Clinton. It was a farce. It was terrible. The way that the superdelegate system worked in the Democratic Party was absurd, and it was just terrible. It was an override of the voters. Bernie Sanders was packing entire stadiums, and Donald Trump was as well, but Hillary couldn't fill a school. And it was amazing to see Bernie Sanders turn heel on the American people and support Hillary. Now, I was a huge critic of Donald Trump. I considered myself a conservative Democrat. I considered myself a pro-life Democrat. I've always kind of occupied that middle place because I wanted to affirm social policies, but I also, had a very strong stance against abortion. And one of the things I hit Donald Trump on was the fact that he used to be pro-choice, and right before he ran for president, he suddenly became pro-life. And I thought that was suspicious. I thought that his bankruptcies were suspicious. I thought that he wasn't a man of character because of how many divorces he's had. And there are a lot of things that you can say about the president that makes you that he's not a very great candidate. I'll be honest. I didn't think he was a great candidate then. I still really don't think that he's a wonderful person. But what I will say is this. What has really driven me far away from the Democratic Party has been the violence that has been encouraged and the violence that has been demonstrated by the Democrats between Black Lives Matter protests that have devolved into riots multiple times, and Antifa, and the way that they have destroyed property, the way that they have literally handed out weapons to protesters, shanks and knives and things like that. It was absolutely terrifying seeing these people absolutely terrifying seeing what these people have done. And the fact that you have politicians encouraging people to act this way. When I saw that Governor Paul Rand was it Rand Paul? I can't remember. He got beat up by his neighbor. He was assaulted and his ribs were broken. When I saw that a Democrat had taken to a Republican ball game and shot up the place and shot them. This kind of thing doesn't happen. This kind of political violence does not happen on the conservative right. And the more that I saw this, the more turned off I was. Now, Donald Trump has many character flaws. I do not believe that the man is a Christian. But I will say that I am pleasantly surprised by what he has done in office. When he pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, when he pulled out of the Iran deal, those were big moments. Big moments. Moving the capital to Israel, the capital to Jerusalem, was something that has been an American policy for several generations, and every president has said that they would do it, and nobody did except for him. Now, as an Orthodox Christian, I have reservations about that decision, but he actually made good on his promise. He's out trying to build walls, and he cut taxes, and my family, see, when I was a Bernie supporter, previous to that, I had been on welfare. I was on welfare, basically because I had a period of joblessness, not really joblessness, but I wasn't being very effective in the business that I was involved in, and I kind of relied on some social programs, and I think that it was my reliance on social programs that made me feel like I couldn't possibly be a Republican. But it's false to suggest that Republicans don't believe that hardworking Americans should not be able to get assistance from a system that they paid into. Right? It's false that those programs need to be taken away. I think that one of the things that really turned me off was when the tax cuts came and they were called crumbs, and how people said that it didn't affect normal, everyday Americans. And I think that's absurd. My paycheck has grown significantly, probably a couple $100 a month from the tax cuts. In addition to that, my company, AT&T, gave us $1,000 bonus. Also, AT&T is opening up 1,000 more retail stores. So this accusation that that lower taxes does not lead to job growth is absurd. Under the Trump administration, I was able to save up enough money to pay off bad debt and to buy a house. I am now sitting in a house that, or I'm now standing in a house that I couldn't have before. And that's a big deal. $200 a month is only not a big deal to rich liberal Democrats, rich liberal Democrats who've already made their money, and they're already, in their 30s or 40s, or their kids who they've raised, and they're probably still in college, and their parents are paying for a bunch of their stuff, and they just don't, they don't have a grasp on reality. They don't know what it's like to be making $40,000, $50,000 a year and having 2 kids. They don't know what an extra $200 a month can mean in a family's grocery budget. And that's just huge. For me, that was enormous. And I don't know. The more that I see Donald Trump in action, the more that I see that he is, in fact, an effective president. Do I think he's a good person? No, I don't think that Donald Trump is a good person. But do I think he's a good president? I do. I do think that Donald Trump is a very good and effective president. When liberals were concerned about him starting a war between us and North Korea, he's actually seeming to cause some sort of peace in North Korea and in the DPNK. And it's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe, maybe Kim Jong-un needed to have somebody who is man enough to make big words and flex the American muscle and tell them, hey, we're not going to tolerate you launching missiles over our allies. It's not going to happen. In the meantime, our previous president did nothing about the fact that these guys attacked an American company because of a movie that made fun of their leader, The Interview. And I think that Donald Trump showing strength, American strength, to the United Nations and telling them, look, if you want our funding, you can't just keep voting against us, right? If you want us to continue to fund literally a quarter of your budget, you can't keep painting us as evil and backing, these countries that have known links to terrorism. There's just a lot that's happening. The Kavanaugh hearings. You see a good guy who's never had a problem in his life. The day that his name is mentioned, there are people holding, basically calling him evil. They don't even know who the guy is. They're calling him evil on the very day that his name is mentioned. There was a tweet that went out from feminists who basically they said, we oppose XX, meaning whoever it is that Donald Trump nominates, we oppose them. And then his life was destroyed right in front. And then people get mad that he had the nerve to say, hey, look, I'm being attacked by political people for political reasons. And they think that him pointing that out means that he can't be a good judge when he has had a stellar record for the entirety of his career, when he's called a serial gang rapist and doesn't like the idea that his name is being dragged through the mud when he hasn't done anything to deserve it. That kind of nonsense that is tolerated and propagated by the media, and when I see how CNN colluded with the Hillary Clinton campaign, when I see how they're spinning stories about the president and about his nominee for the Supreme Court, I see these things, and I agree, it's fake news. That's what it is. It's fake news, and Americans need to depend more on independent media, because these giant news companies, they can't be held accountable. They won't be held accountable in their political machines. I don't think that it's possible that you could that's true for Fox News as well. They're all political machines, and they're not giving people the whole story. Neither side. And I think this is why I had to walk away from the Democratic Party. There's just so much violence and corruption and deception and lying. I had to walk away. And they said, hey, there's no room in our party for a pro-life Democrat. They said that at the Democratic National Committee or conference. They said that there was no room for people who did not support pro-choice. So they told me that they don't want my vote. And I'll never give it to them again. #WalkAway.